Yes, part 3. Finally, we are done. This is the finale of the whole Camo Fest series. Man, this whole thing has backlogged a lot of my other videos, my gameplay videos. But anyways, if you haven't checked out part 1, where we went to the WG headquarters, which is also the TWAAA, Taiwanese Association, no, Taiwanese Airsoft and Airgun Association headquarters, check that out. If you haven't checked out part 2, where we talked about the 5v5 qualifiers and how I thought the sensor plates mechanics changed up some of the gameplay, go check that out over there. But yes, over here today we're going to finally get into the finals of the 5v5. But before that, let's look at the montage of the Camo Fest. But yes, just a quick disclaimer, I did borrow a few clips from Ghosts. I'll see you when we come back. Hey.
Hey.
你是来看比赛的，对不对？
对啊，
特别为我。
要赢不能回去。
对对对，没问题。And this is funny, when I was there, this little boy came up to me and I saw him from the corner of my eye, thinking that, oh, like, hey, he recognizes me as a fan, woo! But as it turned out, he was more interested in the GoPro that I had in my hand. Say GoPro. That was a yeah. Yes, it was raining buckets that day. Even though the whole Camo Fest was set under a bridge, the 5v5, the field was outdoors, so there were serious concerns that the 5v5 was going to get canceled that day. But lucky us, rain would stop intermittently for us to play, so that was good. For the 5v5, there were 10 teams, but on the day of the finals, 2 teams forfeited, they didn't show up. So through random reshuffling of team lineup, our team automatically got bumped up into the semifinals. Yay! All the teams were told to report in at 9 o'clock, but because of the weather, everything got delayed by an hour. And so, like I said, the rain will go on and off throughout the day. I think the most games a team played that day was 3 games. For us, the whole day, we played 1 game, which was at around 2:30 in the afternoon. First and foremost, let's roll the clip of the game that we played, and then we'll talk afterwards, okay? So, yes. Boop.
有一些比较 nice 的，而且你看，我们看到我们路德在这里，来手势来一下，对，好的，没有没有。好，不，来迎得上，那边这边。啊 ，damn！
green. Two down. Cover. Two down. Push, green. Green left. 上了，得吧？
你救完了，
有闪吗？
我闪到。
有闪吗？
我跟他跟你讲，你只要压一下就知道了。
你只要压，有没有声音？你压一下之后，结束。
出电了。
恭喜！辛苦一下，抱一下。
来停一下，握手。我近一点，然后远一点。
Now, I don't know the English names for these teams, but this team that we lost to, which can be loosely translated to Pretty Boy Squad, I suppose, actually went on to the finals and went head-to-head with the team Late Night Benefits, which I think is a pretty cool name, and they actually came out champs. So congratulations to them. Congratulations to Pretty Boy Squad. Looking back, I definitely could have been more aggressive, so I was too worried about the lack of covers in the open space. The field design and the placement of all the covers and all the barrels is sort of made maneuvering a high-risk decision. You couldn't really maneuver without being spotted by everyone on the field at all times. So yeah, that sort of bothered me, so I think that sort of got into my head, so I became more passive in my gameplay. Also, as for me, since I am basically the front man, the tip of the spear, the vanguard, it has always been an issue of mine where I needed to be more comprehensive of where my teammates are in their positions. This could be fixed easily with better communication with my squad. Onto the field itself. Yes, the field design was small. The amount of barrels and their placements didn't really offer much cover. Now, if you were to tell me that this is the field of a tournament championship, I really wouldn't know what to say. It just felt like the field and the field design and the covers and everything was put together haphazardly. I did speak with the organizer of the 5v5. He said that the truck that was supposed to bring the barrels and the curtains was late that day, which delayed their whole setup. Remember, this is TWAA's first attempt at 5v5, so I guess they deserve some leeway. Also, that day the field was asymmetric. So for most competitive sports tournaments, the field has to be symmetrical. Both sides will need to have fair and equal geographical advantages and disadvantages on the field. And afterwards, they will swap sides. The field was also uneven, meaning that one side had a slight height advantage over the other, and on the lower side there was a big puddle of about, I don't know, like 3 or 4 inches deep. And yes, that was the side that my team got started on. On the day of the 5v5 finals, the teams did not switch sides, meaning that if you started off at A and the other team started off at B, you get 1 game and that's it. That was a little bit unforgiving, I thought. But the event organizers did say they wanted to save time and they thought it would just take too much time if each team had to swap sides. Now, a good portion of time actually was spent on setting up the sensor plates for both teams. And I dare say setting up the sensor plates for the teams, for the players, and to check that they work actually took a lot more time than the actual game itself. So regarding the sensor plates, I said in part 2 about how these sensors might have actually cost me and my team the game. Here are some footages. So as you can see, when this player ran up to me, he was out. But I wasn't sure if I got hit, so I was asking him, like, are my lights blinking? Are my lights blinking? Because I couldn't see. If we look through my face cam, it doesn't seem like the beeper's lights are on. from a different angle, as I'm asking for confirmation, the last player on the other team flanked on the other side and was shooting at me. And it was at this time somebody told me my alarm was going off and I'm hit, which resulted in us losing the game. Yes, I could have been hit the first time, I'm not sure, but if I wasn't, then I definitely could have been spending these valuable seconds locating and engaging the last enemy. Of course, I'm not being salty trying to claim that we should have won the game. I'm simply pointing out how this sensor system creates discrepancies in the fundamental gameplay. I could have been more competitive and continued to play until the ref calls me out, but I think you get penalized if you continue to play after the alarm is going off. So like I said in part 2, I believe the sensor plates created more problems than it solved. If you haven't yet seen it, go check it out. What really bothered me was that on the day there were no designated player rest areas, meaning that all the players, we had to set our bag of gears and guns on the sidewalk where regular pedestrians were walking back and forth. Now, lucky for us, nothing happened, but anybody that day could have just walked by and just picked up the bag and walked off, and there goes at least like 500 bucks. Also, there were no chairs or tables. If they're really serious about making this into an international competition, like what the directing manager has said, I think I am not asking too much for just chairs and tables, because on the day we were sitting on the floor like beggars. Now, when I brought this up to the organizer, he did say he did request for a player designated tent from the association, but on that day they forgot. So I guess this is a case of some kind of bureaucratic strata. Okay, whatever it was, I hope that they get it solved next time, because yeah, that wasn't cool. Of course, I'm not judging anybody or anything. I think organizing and hosting a big event as such is very difficult. It's very challenging. And I think Camo Fest as a whole was very successful despite the weather. Now remember, the 5v5 is only part of the Camo Fest. So like I said in part 1, this year's event's goal is to help sway public opinion regarding airsoft. So to push back the government's proposed policy, which would greatly hinder the Taiwanese airsoft manufacturers' ability to operate. You have to remember, it was never TWAA's top priority to create a world-class 5v5 competition. The players were there, in my opinion, as sort of mascots to intermingle with the public, so everybody can see like, oh, like, you know, like that's an airsoft player, he's not like a hooligan or like a gangster or anything. Plenty of families and children did show up to participate and experience different aspects of airsoft. So on that front, the event had achieved its goal, and I think they did a good job. I compared 5v5 multiple times to SpeedQB, and that's because it's the only 5v5 airsoft competitions out there in the world right now. But the difference is that SpeedQB was designed and organized by players for players, while the Camo Fest 5v5 was designed and organized by airsoft manufacturers for airsoft manufacturers. Is that wrong? Of course not. It's just naturally the association would have a different priority than players. That's it, which is absolutely okay. So with that said, there are plenty of room for improvement in the future, and we'll see how they organize the event next year. In the end, the atmosphere, the culture, and everybody that was there, it was just great. From the organizers to the players and to the different teams that showed up that I met, overall I had a blast, and I went home having met a few more friends. That's what it's all about, right? When you play airsoft, just meeting great people. So okay, until next time, noob out.